And last but not least, David Spurk is Senior Counselor at Palantir Technologies, and Dave was Department of Defense's first Chief Data Officer and a Deputy Director for Intelligence. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Now, Dave, if I can bring you in, switching a little bit from economic towards the military end of these discussions, but feel free to bring in any perspective. I wanted to get your sense on the prospects for generative AI in military settings. Like, we know China will try and deploy those innovations, but there are accuracy issues around these large language models that have been trained on the open internet. So where do you see the evolution of the models so that they can be more trusted? And, what are some examples where you're seeing it happening already?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And I think, thanks to the Atlantic Council for putting this on. I'm also dual hat as the AI commissioner for the Global Tech Security Commission. And so I'm going to bring in a lot of the thoughts of the advisory council that we've pulled together and kind of put together some material that kind of been on, U.S. strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the context of the competition with China. I think what I'd say initially to the question of, generative AI in the Department of Defense, in the national security sector, is it's already there. It's already being experimented with. It's already being employed. Go down to, somewhat tactical and operational units that are trying to figure out how it can help optimize, workflows. I can go all the way up to strategic initiatives being led by the CDAO, where Craig Martell himself, the DoD's Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Officer, has a healthy sense of skepticism on the role of large language models and generative AI in today's context, in things of such a high consequence as our national security sector. But what I can tell you is, the genie's out of the bottle. Now that people have an understanding of the opportunity that this can provide for them to transform working concepts that they have, to make their workflows both faster and more precise, and I'll get to that in a second. I think that we're just going to see them increasingly, being used, and we're going to need to put some light guardrails to ensure that we don't slow the creative application of them by the men and women on the front lines who do have a tremendous task at their workstations. That it would actually, I think, be unethical if we don't allow them to use artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies to be more precise and to be more efficient. As far as I know people talk about hallucination. What I would say is, hallucinations versus confabulation is an interesting difference. Confabulation is something that we humans do very well. I know we've all, run into that individual that we've asked a question and they gave us a very compelling answer towards. And then we went and we explained it to somebody else and a professor was like, that's absolutely not what's happening. This person knew a little bit and they made up a lot. So humans do this as well. I think the opportunity of leveraging, large language models and generative AI, almost like we used to do with Wikipedia in the beginning, where I have a healthy skepticism for what's there, but at least it gives me a start point, is probably what we're easing our way into and moving these technologies into the military formation. All will improve as we have new models and new cycles and we begin to integrate them and our domain experts begin to better understand back into our very open, system. Right now, we have a couple of proprietary models that we're really talking about over and over again, but there's an entire open, community that's developing new large language models, new generative AI capabilities. And those are not
just language models, by the way,
correct.
Is it? Like when you have graph-based models, that must be super handy for understanding relationships quickly when you're trying to diffuse a threat or understand where threats are coming from in a military setting.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. That was kind of as the representative was talking, earlier, one of the things that I was thinking about was, where we have seen portions of the U.S. military move the most rapidly from a data maturity standpoint, places where we've seen them bring in modern data management platforms a decade ago and have been working on ontology, have been working, the refined data holdings that you can build trustable, testable, repeatable data workflows. That's where we're seeing the fastest movement on not necessarily proprietary large language models or generative AI, but graph models, whatever type of model you want to bring into that environment. The precision, because of the guardrails the ontology gives you, the decades old work, we're really seeing them not be quite as confabulating as accuracy. So I think we're seeing a lot of movements in this place. We're seeing a lot of experimentation. It's something that we're also seeing companies begin to form around the concept of precision and trust. Companies like Calypso AI, who are measuring the performance of models in a live workflow to tell you where it's performing well, where it's not. I think there's an entire market that's being generated here as well. And we're only going to figure out how to do it by doing it live in our formation. Over.
And it's from Chris Byron Harding. And he's asking, or Chris is asking, have the panelists read that China's AI is trained on Chinese language, and therefore that potentially limits the diversity of Chinese AI applications, because internet is dominated, generally speaking, by English language applications, companies, and so on. So will China have a difficulty spreading its tools and technologies if all of its models are trained on?
I think it would be naive to think that they're not, scooping up many of the models that are being developed in the open environment, and recognizing how to tune those for their own unique needs, whether it's surveillance of English, language speaking individuals, or, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Delia or Christabel who brought up the fact that it's the data fusion and the opportunities of bringing those data sets together in the new and unique ways that they could use both of those models, as they start to think about doing new and unique things with them. I think to the point of we're just kind of at the precipice of the opportunity of using generative AI, is something that, we've yet to really see how creative people can get when they start to ensemble different types of large language models with different types of generative AI, with different types of now and newly available data sets, now that we have both the compute and transport to allow, things that would have only been a dream, 3 to 5 years ago. So I think we're just getting started here. But I don't think that we have an advantage because Chinese models are built around Chinese language. Over.
Maybe I can turn to another audience question here. John Jansen from the Virginia State Police, who's a program manager there, asks, should US state legislatures enact laws to protect businesses and universities from IP theft by nation states such as China or other actors? And if so, what can be accomplished by changing criminal codes to tackle IP theft more broadly?
Realistic, but also optimistic. I think U.S. strengths, hands down, continue to beat the threats posed by China to the continued development of responsible AI. I think the U.S., has some crown jewels at its disposal in our leading AI companies, in our world-class academic institution, in the way that those are run and actually feed into that creative startup ecosystem. I think that ecosystem, thrives because of the open and collaborative research culture around, those three things that I already mentioned. And just from the national security perspective, we have field experience in AI application. We do. When I look back to some of the things that we started now 6-7 years ago with Project Maven and the DoD, and we were just trying to see if we could use computer vision and full motion video. And as we started pulling that, we got the domain experts, excited about, hey,